You are staring at the dashboard of a spotless, 10-year-old Toyota Camry you found listed online. The digital odometer reads a pristine 50,000 miles. The steering wheel looks barely touched, the seats are firm, and you are reaching for your wallet thinking you just found the deal of the century. Put your wallet away, because you are probably being scammed. Mileage manipulation is not some outdated trick from the 1980s where a shady mechanic with a power drill spun a mechanical cable backward. In our modern era, rolling back an odometer is terrifyingly simple and completely digital. People used to think that when odometers went digital, the numbers were permanently locked into the car's computer. They were wrong. Today, the vehicle's mileage is stored in multiple electronic control units, or ECUs, accessible right through the OBD2 port under the dashboard. A dishonest seller can buy a specialized handheld scanner online, plug it in, and rewrite the memory chips in about 15 minutes. They can wipe 80,000 miles off the dash while sitting in a fast food parking lot. And the worst part is, in many vehicles, they can synchronize this fake number across the transmission control module and the body control module simultaneously, so everything looks perfectly legitimate. This is why you must pull a comprehensive digital vehicle history report to verify the mileage trends over time, and take the vehicle to an independent technician who can scan the ABS module for hidden mileage data, because that little digital screen on the dash is lying to you. But a hacked odometer is only one way a seller can hide a car's dark past. If you open the door of a used car, whether it is a daily commuter or a massive Ford F-150, and the interior smells like a damp basement or a wet towel, that is a massive red flag. That funky, humid odor is not just old car smell, it is the undeniable stench of hidden flood damage. Unscrupulous sellers will shampoo the carpets, run industrial ozone machines, and hang a dozen pine tree air fresheners from the rearview mirror. But water always leaves a permanent, physical signature. When you get in the vehicle, turn off the climate control, close the windows, and take a slow, deep breath. If you smell mildew, you need to start a serious physical investigation. Run your bare hands hard across the carpets, pushing down to feel for damp foam underneath. Pull the seatbelts all the way out to their absolute limit and look for a distinct dirt or water line where the floodwaters stopped. Pull up the trunk mat and look for chalky white water stains or rust in the spare tire well. Slide your hand all the way under the front seats and feel the bare metal seat rails. If they feel rough and severely rusted, water has been standing in that cabin. You also need to look beyond the upholstery. Are the insides of the headlight housings foggy? Look under the dashboard at the interior fuse box. If you see a fuzzy green crust on the copper wiring, galvanic corrosion is actively eating the electrical system. A flood-damaged car might drive perfectly for 3 months, and then the nightmare begins. Sensors randomly fail, the instrument cluster lights up with warning messages, and eventually, the car just dies completely in the middle of a busy intersection. Insurance companies total these cars for a reason. Do not let a cheap price tag trick you into buying tomorrow's electrical nightmare. Before we look at how to inspect the engine bay like a master mechanic, if you want to keep your hard-earned money in your pocket and out of the hands of shady repair shops, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you these automotive truths. When you finally pop the hood to inspect the powertrain, you need to ignore the shiny, freshly Armor All-coated plastic engine cover and look for the real mechanical story. Grab a strong flashlight and hunt for dark, wet spots around the valve cover gasket and the front of the engine block. Peek underneath the oil pan and the transmission bell housing for any fresh fluid puddles. Then, pull the engine oil dipstick. You want to see clean amber oil, or at worst, a dark translucent brown if it is due for a scheduled change. But if you pull that dipstick and the oil looks exactly like a thick, frothy vanilla milkshake, drop the hood and walk away immediately. That milky substance means engine coolant is actively mixing with the motor oil, which points directly to a blown head gasket, a warped cylinder head, or a cracked block. Next, open the coolant reservoir. You want to see brightly colored fluid, usually green, orange, or pink, depending on the manufacturer's specification. If it looks like rusty, thick brown sludge, the cooling system has been severely neglected and is slowly rusting the water pump and heater core from the inside out. When you finally turn the key in the ignition, listen closely. The engine should fire up instantly and settle into a smooth, consistent idle. If you hear a heavy, rhythmic knocking sound coming from deep inside the block, that is internal rod bearing failure. If you hear a rapid ticking noise, it could be starve lifters indicating dangerously low oil pressure. Have a friend gently rev the engine while you stand behind the car and watch the tailpipe. If the car stumbles and hesitates, or worse, if it blows a thick cloud of sweet-smelling white smoke, you are burning coolant inside the combustion chamber. Blue smoke means the piston rings or valve stem seals are shot and you are burning oil, while thick black smoke means the engine is running incredibly rich and dumping raw, unburnt fuel through the exhaust. Any of those tailpipe colors mean you are looking at a massive engine rebuild bill that might cost more than the vehicle is actually worth. Now, let us say you already own a reliable vehicle and you just take it in for a routine oil change at a quick lube shop. You are sitting in the waiting room when the service advisor comes out looking incredibly concerned. He tells you that your power steering fluid, brake fluid, and engine coolant are severely contaminated, and you need an emergency flush immediately, or your car will suffer catastrophic failure on the highway. This is the absolute oldest trick in the service department playbook. It is explicitly designed to induce panic, so you agree to a highly profitable upsell without thinking logically. Yes, automotive fluids absolutely have a finite lifespan dictated by their chemical breakdown, but they do not suddenly turn toxic overnight and require a $300 emergency flush every 6 months. The word emergency is just a high-pressure sales tactic to separate you from your cash. For example, healthy brake fluid is a clear, yellowish color, but over time, it absorbs moisture and turns dark like maple syrup. That transition takes years, not weeks. To protect yourself, open your glove box and read your owner's manual. It contains a very specific maintenance schedule that tells you exactly when each fluid needs to be replaced based on your driven mileage. When the service advisor makes this aggressive claim, ask them for physical proof. Ask to see the chemical test strips for the coolant. Ask them why it is an emergency. Did they find a mechanical leak in the steering rack? Or is the fluid actually burnt? If they cannot give you a hard engineering reason backed up by visual evidence and just keep painting vague disaster scenarios, pay for your basic oil change and go get a second opinion from an honest mechanic. We are about to uncover how modern car companies are literally locking you out of your own engine to force you back to the expensive dealership. But before I reveal how to beat their software traps and keep your car running perfectly, hit that subscribe button to join our garage community. Decades ago, anyone with a basic set of hand tools and a free weekend could rebuild a carburetor, set the ignition timing, and tune their own engine in the driveway. Then the automotive manufacturers introduced the electronic control unit, the computer brain of the modern car. Initially, it was a fantastic leap forward for fuel economy and emissions control, but over time, it became a massive corporate wall designed to generate revenue. Today, on roughly 80% of modern vehicles on the road, an independent local mechanic cannot even properly diagnose a transmission fault or calibrate a steering angle sensor. Why? Because the car physically refuses to hand over the data. The manufacturer intentionally locks the detailed diagnostic codes and programming capabilities behind proprietary software walls. You have closed systems like VCDS for Volkswagen, CLIP for Renault, and IDS for Ford. These factory scan tools cost tens of thousands of dollars in licensing fees, forcing you to go back to the dealership for something incredibly minor. It is a highly profitable service strategy, masked as a vehicle security feature. Imagine you start your car in the morning. The yellow check engine light illuminates on the dash, and you panic. You drive straight to the local dealership service center. The factory technician plugs in their proprietary laptop for exactly 2 minutes and tells you that an upstream oxygen sensor has failed. They quote you $150 for the OEM part and $20 for the labor. You feel entirely trapped, so you agree to pay the $170. What they intentionally do not tell you is that if your local independent shop had the right open-source software access, they could have easily installed a premium aftermarket equivalent part from a brand like Bosch or NTK for just $30 total. You just paid a massive $140 premium simply because the manufacturer locked the computer system to eliminate free market competition. This software lockdown is incredibly frustrating, but there is an actual mechanical design flaw in almost every modern engine that dealerships love to charge you for, and it has to do with how your engine gets its fuel. Nearly every new vehicle today, whether it is a high-performance BMW or an efficient daily driver, uses gasoline direct injection. Instead of spraying fuel into the intake manifold behind the intake valves, the fuel is injected at massive pressure, sometimes over 2000 psi, directly into the combustion chamber. This engineering design is absolutely brilliant for hitting high MPG numbers and maximizing power, but it creates a massive hidden problem. In older port-injected engines, the liquid gasoline acted as a constant solvent, constantly washing the back of the intake valves clean of any debris. With direct injection, that critical cleaning effect is completely gone. The PCV system, or positive crankcase ventilation, still routes hot, oily crankcase vapors back into the intake manifold to be burned for emissions purposes. Those oily vapors now bake directly onto the blistering hot, dry intake valves, creating a thick, rock-hard layer of black carbon buildup. Over 30,000 to 50,000 miles, this heavy carbon physically chokes the airflow into your engine cylinders. You will slowly start to notice a rough, shaking idle, poor acceleration, and terrible gas mileage. Dealerships will often try to sell you expensive chemical fuel additives or induction cleaning sprays to fix it, but those liquid additives never even touch the back of the valves in a direct injected motor. The only true, mechanically sound fix is physically removing the intake manifold and blasting the intake valves clean using pressurized, crushed walnut shells. If your direct injected engine feels incredibly sluggish and unresponsive, stop buying magic fluids in a plastic bottle and find a specialized automotive shop that performs professional walnut blasting. The final area where drivers get absolutely taken to the cleaners is the vehicle braking system. You are driving down the highway, You hit the brake pedal to slow down for traffic, and you feel a violent, shaking vibration in the steering wheel. You take the car to a quick brake franchise shop. The mechanic takes off the wheels, shakes his head, and tells you that your heavy iron rotors are warped and your brake calipers are sticking, handing you a massive estimate for over $1,000 to replace the entire hydraulic system. Here is the mechanical truth that the industry does not want you to know. Modern, vented, cast-iron brake rotors almost never warp from normal street driving. It takes extreme, glowing hot track day temperatures to actually permanently bend heavy cast iron. What you are actually feeling through the steering wheel is uneven brake pad deposits. When you brake hard from highway speeds and come to a complete stop, keeping your foot mashed heavily on the brake pedal, the intense friction heat bakes a microscopic layer of the brake pad material directly onto the surface of the rotor. This creates invisible high spots of friction material, which causes the aggressive pulsing feeling as the pad grabs and slips over the rotor. In many cases, a proper series of hard, controlled braking maneuvers, bringing the car from 60 miles per hour down to 10 miles per hour repeatedly without stopping, can generate enough even heat to scrub that material right off and bed the pads correctly. Furthermore, unless a metal caliper piston is physically seized inside the bore, or the rubber square cut seal is leaking hydraulic fluid, you almost never need to replace the entire caliper assembly during a routine brake pad service. They usually just need to have their metal slide pins thoroughly cleaned with a wire brush and re-lubricated with a high-temperature silicone grease so they can float freely. Always ask the mechanic to physically show you exactly why a caliper is failing, and ask to see the leak or the frozen piston before you authorize replacing a perfectly good piece of heavy automotive iron. Taking care of a vehicle and keeping it safely on the road does not mean you have to be at the absolute mercy of dealership software lockdowns or high-pressure service advisors. It simply requires a basic, foundational understanding of how your machine actually works, knowing exactly what your owner's manual dictates for maintenance intervals, and having the confidence to ask a mechanic for physical proof before you ever hand over your credit card. Trust your senses, do your own visual and physical inspections when buying a used car, and never let a service writer create an imaginary emergency out of a routine maintenance item just to hit their monthly sales quota. Have you ever been aggressively pushed into buying an expensive automotive repair you did not actually need? Or are you currently dealing with a shady used car dealership hiding mechanical problems? Drop your car's year, make, model, and the story down in the comments below. I read through as many as I can to help you guys navigate the confusing automotive repair industry. If this technical breakdown saved you a frustrating trip to the repair shop or stopped you from buying a flood-damaged lemon, hit that subscribe button one last time, and I will see you under the hood in the next video.